I'm Faik Wahid. This is my second time I've attended the UNISA Symposium, and I'm very interested to learn from some of the presenters in terms of what other higher education institutions in South Africa are doing.
Yes, I have attended symposiums before, but when it comes to this one, because I believe in community engagement, and I've been part of several projects, I believe that raising awareness like this opens you up to others, what others are doing, whether it be at universities, at primary school, high school, whatever. When it comes to community engagement, I think everybody should get involved, and I think these symposiums, they kind of give you an opportunity to see what everybody else is doing, and it actually assists you in giving you ideas as to how you could possibly either re-look at what you're currently doing or add on to what you're currently doing. So yeah, these symposiums, it's always a good thing to attend.
Yes, I did attend the academic symposium before. It was very informative. I'm expecting more information, interaction amongst colleagues, and also learning from each other. And also looking forward to the commissions because the topics there were very, very interesting.
I'm joining this symposium for the third time. My expectation for 2019 is more of learning from the best in terms of the student support, on how can we improve, especially on e-tutoring within the ODEL environment.
Attended the symposium last year. We had a wide variety of presenters. My expectations as one of the speakers tomorrow, I'm quite anxious about the attendance because we grouped in one slot with some of the doctors. So the competition might be a bit too tight, but I'm looking forward to the plenary sessions as well as question and answer with Dr. Alan Cliff.
I haven't attended the UNISA symposium before, but I have attended at other symposia. For today, I'm very excited to hear about what we're doing in terms of our students. Higher education is changing. How are we accommodating our students in terms of making them ready for the workplace and making them ensuring that they are employable in this fourth industrial revolution and the 21st.
I haven't attended a symposium at UNISA before, and I'm looking forward to networking with people across different institutions, higher educational institutions in the country. I think student support really need to be supported, and I love the theme of building resilience, so I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, this is my second symposium of UNISA which I'm attending. The first one was when my colleague Dr. Onziswa Konana presented, and she invited me to come with her. My expectation of today's thing, I want to learn about the resilience and see how people, my colleagues, have implemented in their classrooms so that I can try it myself.
I'm expecting to achieve from this is to learn from other practitioners as well. What are the new trends out there in terms of student support and learning and teaching and education?
And I think the stakes are high here. The standard is being set very high. I can see with the engagements that are happening in the room. And my expectation is to see robust and intensive discussions amongst support structures, student counselors, librarians, student administration. So I'm expecting that from here we at least come up with ways to develop academic resilience from all corners of UNISA and even from our external stakeholders like your UCT and other institutions of higher learning, that we see how we can best develop this academic resilience in our students.
I attended John's session, the manager for learner support and ICT. And what I took away from that is that your own academic experiences are worthy as scholarly articles. So what you derive from all of this administration can one day lead up to be something that somebody else can learn.
Hello, my name is Queeneth. I attended the Blended and Distant Teaching and Learning by UWC. It was quite interesting. What it really took off home was the interest on the personal learning of our students and the portfolio that they develop for students when they go out of the institution. So I found out that their teaching is very holistically, and that was interesting. I would like us to implement such.
Attended the Blended Teaching and Learning seminar. It was quite informative of how students are using the online platform at UWC to learn and to just to learn their own portfolios and how to make them graduates, but also graduates when they in the outside world. So not only to pass their studies, but also to become employees in the working world.
The blended learning session, which was presented by the people from the Western Cape University. The session was nice. Actually, it was more informative because here at UNISA, I'm working in the College of Accounting Sciences, and we are working with the e-tutors. So the system that they have is similar as what we have. So it was nice to hear from the colleagues as to what is it that they do better or differently.
Online learning and the importance of knowing the identities of the students that you're teaching. And I found it very, very useful. And now I'm heading to another session also on technology enhanced teaching and learning, because that's my area of interest.
Okay, I attended the Blended and Learning online course. It was very interesting because we learned about the goals for UWC, how the Canvas site works, and that was quite interesting for UNISA students as well.
I attended the UWC Center for Initiative Education and Communication Technologies work session, and they were focusing on digital academic literature and digital media literacy. What I found quite interesting there is it focuses on the academic digital content development, focus on how the interaction between student and lecturer can take place without actually being in the classroom, and it could be accessed from different areas and venues. So the lecturer can develop content, any type of content, media, lectures, interaction sessions, and I found that very, very interesting because I've attended one or two of this kind of workshops, and then we leave and then we don't have any follow-up. So I actually interacted with them afterwards, asking them how we can get in touch. So I've got their contact details, and they can work out a workshop which we can attend and get trained onto how to engage in this kind of content development.
Okay, we were into the leverage technology to enhance teaching and learning. One of the things that stand out was the ability for the lecturers and students to interact online, and how online is going to change the lives of ODL learning, as in like UNISA is shifting from the blended learning as we know to online learning. So I feel like it was so informative and interesting, and if it was my comment, I would be like, okay, each and every university in South Africa should do that.
Thank you. The session that I attended was leveraging technology to enhance teaching and learning, and that's from the College of CAMS. It was very interesting, especially when it comes to all sort of alternative assessments that UNISA want to pursue. I mean, we're talking about the e-portfolios. We already know about the take-home exam, which is the FI, the webinar, which will be more resourceful for the M&D student. That was actually very interesting. And what also stood out the most is that going forward into the future, UNISA would be looking into implementing a 24-hour support for our students. So I don't know, maybe it's a night shift for lecturers. I don't know, I'm kidding. But that will be good, that will be good. Yeah, so that's what stood out for me. But other than that, everything was quite interesting.
Good day, my name is David Asher. I'm an alumni member of UNISA. I'm also a tutor at UNISA and I'm teaching economics. What I basically saw today with Professor Cliff was very informative. I think he highlighted very few important points that regarding resilience in the academic space that I think we are so importantly looking at. So I feel that we as tutors need to take that into our classrooms and need to apply that, because that is the type of resilience coming from different, if you look at our type of students that we have in our classrooms. So we need to identify that and we need to actually understand where students are coming from and that articulation gap that we experience. Thank you so much.
Okay, I feel it's very productive. I learned a lot in this small space, the small time that I'm here now, and I will take what I learned here back to my college and try to apply to my work and implement with my students. Thank you.
So I found the keynote address quite interesting this morning. It definitely resonated in terms of the work that I do at the Chrysalis Academy, particularly around social learning theory and the importance of context and the importance of having young people, students reflected in the staff and in the buildings and in the actual institution itself.
Right. No, I think the topic about culture and resilience and that in the education space is very important, and I think it's issues that should have been addressed years ago. And it's a pity it had to come to this, that we are forced now to address it. But very, very exciting, very interesting topics. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'd like to say the first session by Dr. or Professor Alan Cliff was really encouraging, because I think that all of us need to be going beyond just teaching and learning. So I am going to take back what I learned, and it's great being here. Thank you.
That I attended is all about the fourth industrial revolution, whether the higher education, are we ready? It seems as if we are not yet ready. because we still have a lot of work to do. We need to develop the skills of our staff members, the students, and the community. So there's still a lot of work that we need to do with regard to fourth industrial revolution.
I think this thing of fourth industrial revolution, we really need to be very careful about it, because we have students who are from very less privileged backgrounds. You know, some of the schools, they don't even have toilets. Feeding scheme is a shame. Now you're telling them about computers. And UNISA was, for many years, last hope for students who couldn't access universities like UCT, UWC. And now when you bring this thing of fourth industrial revolution, what are you saying? Now students from poorest of the poor backgrounds, they cannot access higher education. Think about it. Thank you.
The reflection on workable student support program. The most interesting thing is that the tutors that are assisting are tutors that are passionate about the subject, and they are there to teach. They are not there to get the money.
I'm a lecturer for FAC 1502. I'm attending the Academic Development Symposium in Cape Town. The session that I just completed, it's the blended approach in framing digital literacies. I think it's been a great session, taking into account of the diversity of our students, where they come from. Some of them, they lack understanding of digital technology. So from that perspective, I think I understood more the complexities involved at UNISA regarding the diversity of our own students.
Okay, I've just attended the session on RPL by Dr. Snyman from UNISA, I think, and it was very, very informative. It's obvious this lady knows exactly what she's talking about, and I managed to get a whole lot of tips for my institution from that paper that would enrich our practice.
Hi, I attended the inclusivity practice towards building resilience. It was hosted by the Crystal Academy. What I took out from that session is they were talking about inclusivity. I liked it when they say inclusivity is a feeling. And also I took out the fact that inclusivity includes safety. They consider safety as part of inclusivity. I thought about safety in terms of online tutoring. If a tutor online doesn't consider etiquette or doesn't give the students to guidelines of how to communicate with each other online, then other students may be threatened to get to participate online. For example, if there's a student who keeps on dominating, then other students may be threatened to participate because they know there's this person who is going to dominate them in terms of answering the questions. Thank you.
I attended the session on two-stage assessments. For me as a lecturer, how we assess students is always a big issue, and I felt it was relevant, especially when we consider workloads from both the student side and the lecturer side, and also consider what impact that has in reducing anxieties for students when we do the two-stage assessment. So I think it was quite helpful. Obviously, the presentation was in a different field from mine, but when we talk of assessments, I think we can always adapt it as we go.
Prof. Jansen is always powerful as a speaker, but also reminds us globally that the way that we do higher education is a reactive rather than a proactive space of how do we actually address the world. And for me, the deeper message that resonates with me from him is how do we actually transform higher education into something that helps us think about the world's problems rather than simply reacting to them.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I believe that the session today was really thought-provoking and very much engaging. It spoke about realities on the ground, but very, very sad realities, in the sense that it was talking about UNISA, which I believe that UNISA is an organization for the people. I believed what Professor Johnson was saying, and at the same time, I also have critiqued what he was saying. The 7 principles that he mentioned are all true, but then in the case of UNISA, I still believe that he also must play a very important role, because he's actually sitting with the Minister of Higher Education, who talks about the enrollment plan.
Hello, my name is Dearne Garcia-Stubbs, and I'm a student at the University of Washington in Seattle, and I enjoyed the keynote address that Professor gave, but the hard part is really implementing these things that are discussed and trying to navigate these different systems, especially within the United States context. Is we have a lot of the ideas of what needs to be fixed, but trying to find the solutions to fix those is where the difficult problem comes.
Thank you very much. We are from a very interesting session addressed by Professor Johnson. And I like the way he approached resilience from all aspects and walks of life, from basic education up to higher institutions, and also including other socio-economical factors. And also talking about how do we deal with the challenges, especially when it comes to the 7 theses that he spoke about. Resilience is from all the aspects, is from all the angles, but what is most important is that how do we deal with these issues on our daily basis? Do we manage the problem, or do we solve the problem? Are we able to take it further and make sure that what we come, and what came out of this is the kind of the leadership that we have in order to help us to go through this. Very interesting, mind-boggling, and also putting us into action when we go back to our stations. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kyle Johnson from the University of Washington, and my thoughts after the presentation were, to what extent can education actually fix the problem, and at what point does it extend beyond the reach of what education has control over? At what point does the economy and the state of the economy affect how many people are going to university? And that was kind of where my thoughts had been.
I think the presentation by Professor Jonathan was thought-provoking. Mara, if look, man, he talks to the point, and I like that. One thing that jumped for me was providing effective and efficient administrative support system to enable learning. I think this is key. And for UNISA, I believe that if all stakeholders come to the party and engage in putting together student-centric systems, that will help the academic development program.
I think every time that we get an opportunity to see Prof. Jansen speak is really unique, and it's great that we actually managed to come here and hear so many of the truths that he can just speak out so easily. It's really, he pointed out many things that we really need to think about. I mean, this is not something that you can just process in 30 seconds. But I think the important part is that it mustn't just be something that we keep isolated in a symposium like this, and we must really take it further and make more of a conversation of it rather than just an address by him.
I think Professor Jansen captured in a nutshell, first of all, what lots of academics and lots of researchers have been talking about, writing about, publishing for the last 30 years. The point being, and I think this is the thing he said most clearly, was that if we don't have the kind of leadership that can inspire, you know, one of his 7 theses was about instead of passing on the message of failure, you know, that whole thing about looking around at the classroom, this one's going to, you're all going to fail, etc. Passing on a message of potential excellence. Our students are the best in the country because they are the ones that make it. They are the ones that, despite all the conditions, and you should see them out there, that actually make it to us. If we're not harnessing that, they already are resilient, as he said. If we're not harnessing that and kind of being inspired by the fact that the point is that we are not going to effect change without dynamic leadership, the kind of leadership that Professor Jansen actually stands for. I think that's it.
So basically throughout the talk that Prof. Jansen gave, I think it was quite brutal and very honest, and I think that's what most academic institutions need, such leadership and such thought-provoking conversations.
I enjoyed Prof. Jansen's presentation. I like how radical and how honest he is when it comes to presenting real information relating to matters that are real and happening in academia. So I thoroughly enjoyed his presentation and I took so much from it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Romania Baxter. I'm from Boland TVET College. I think what you always have with Prof. Jansen is so honest. We were actually a bit scared coming in because we were going to be late. You get the honesty, and I think what I love most about what you talked about us today is that we need to do some introspection with ourselves as well and start off, where are you at? And I'm in student affairs, so obviously in student affairs we want to help everybody. And I think what he just reiterated again today is that we should not forget that we are academic institutions, and at the end of the day, if we allow students in that will not be academically successful or that we're not supporting, we are failing them. And I think all of us needs to go back and really look at what is our admissions policy and what we are doing in terms of our support systems to achieve academic excellence and for our students to obtain their qualification at the end of the term.
Prof. Jansen's keynote was so stimulating and energizing, I found it. He actually, as I was listening to him, I was reminded of a saying that I grew up with. My mother always used to say that your enemy with knowledge is of more worth to you than your friend who is ignorant. And I think the fundamental idea that he left me with is an affirmation of how important knowledge is, and that everything else that we're doing is around maintaining the standards of knowledge. And perhaps, maybe as a country, because we haven't dealt with our past, with our injuries, so we've kind of turned it into this new vulnerability. That we need to be mollycoddled and that we are so very snowflakey. But what he reminded us again, is that we are knowledge. Knowledge is who we are. And so we need to address and come back to embracing the standards of knowledge. Thank you so much.
I think it's an opportunity for us to really look back and go back. And as he says, his words are very, very poignant at the end when he said, we cannot let this great university go down the tubes. And we have the responsibility as management, as leaders, in actual fact, every one of us as Unisons, to pick up the spear from those who have dropped them, senior people that have dropped them, great people, ex-Unisons that have dropped them, and run with it ourselves. Thank you.